The incredible tale of Eddie Rickenbacker and Jimmy Meissner during WWI. Welcome to an in-depth exploration of one of the most remarkable chapters in aerial combat history. Today, we delve into the experiences of Captain Eddie Rickenbacker, America's top flying ace during the First World War, as recounted in his memoir, Fighting the Flying Circus. Specifically, we focus on Chapter 12, Jimmy Meissner Again, which provides a detailed account of aerial tactics, pilot camaraderie, and the challenges faced by aviators in 1918. On May 30th, 1918, Decoration Day, known today as Memorial Day, the thoughts of American servicemen were with their families back home. However, the exigencies of war demanded their full attention. A critical request arrived from the British Independent Air Force Headquarters, a mission requiring immediate support. This episode not only highlights the strategic collaboration among Allied forces, but also showcases the extraordinary feats of pilots like Lieutenant James Jimmy Meissner. In the spring of 1918, coordination among the Allied air forces was paramount. The Western Front, particularly sectors near Saint-Mihiel and Verdun, was a complex tapestry of trenches, supply lines, and aerial activity. The American 94th and 95th Aero Squadrons, newly arrived but eager to prove themselves, often collaborated with their seasoned French and British counterparts. On this significant day, the British planned an essential bombing raid on the German railhead at Conflans, a crucial logistics hub approximately 20 kilometers behind the front lines. Intelligence indicated that disrupting this node could significantly impair German troop movements and supplies. Recognizing the vulnerability of their bombers on the return journey, laden with the fuel depletion and potential mechanical issues common in Airco DH-9s and other bombing platforms, the British requested escort support. The American squadrons were tasked to provide top cover during the critical egress phase of the mission. Lieutenant Jimmy Meissner of the 94th Aero Squadron was designated to lead a formation of 6 Nieuport 28 fighters. Simultaneously, Lieutenant John Mitchell of the 95th Aero Squadron commanded a similar contingent. It's important to clarify that this John Mitchell was not to be confused with the late brother of Colonel William Mitchell, whose untimely death had earlier impacted the squadron. The rendezvous point was established over Thiaucourt, strategically positioned approximately midway between the front lines and Conflans. This location allowed for optimal altitude gain and coordination before intercepting any German response. Captain Rickenbacker, always seeking opportunities to engage the enemy and test his skills, decided to undertake a solo patrol. Departing at 0730 hours, he ascended to an altitude of 4,500 meters, a height that offered both tactical advantages and a panoramic view of the unfolding operations. By positioning himself above Flyery, a sector known for intense aerial activity due to its proximity to the salient, Rickenbacker could observe the movements of both Allied and enemy formations. His choice of altitude also provided potential energy for diving attacks, a tactic frequently employed by aces to gain speed and surprise. The stage was set for a significant confrontation. Rickenbacker observed the British bombers, likely a squadron of Royal Air Force de Havilland aircraft, returning from their mission, having successfully deployed their ordnance over Conflans. However, their actions had not gone unnoticed. A sizable formation of German fighters, including Albatros Diva and Fokker D-7 aircraft, were in pursuit. The Germans, utilizing their well-coordinated Jagdstaffeln tactics, aimed to exploit any weaknesses during the bombers' return flight. Simultaneously, anti-aircraft artillery, colloquially known as Archie by the pilots, filled the sky with shrapnel bursts. Despite the density of fire, the efficacy of these batteries was limited due to the inherent challenges of targeting fast-moving aircraft at varying altitudes. As the American formations of the 94th and 95th Squadrons advanced towards the rendezvous point, Rickenbacker noticed a disruption. A separate enemy group, possibly elements of Jagdgeschwader units, had engaged the American fighters in an attempt to prevent them from reaching the bombers. Amidst the ensuing dogfight, Rickenbacker spotted a Nieuport aircraft in distress. It was entering an uncontrolled spin, a maneuver that could indicate a stall, structural damage, or a tactical feint. Compounding the danger, Two Albatross fighters had positioned themselves to capitalize on the Nieuport's apparent vulnerability. Demonstrating situational awareness and quick decision-making, Rickenbacker initiated a steep dive to intercept. Utilizing the kinetic energy from his altitude, he closed the distance rapidly. Engaging one of the Albatross fighters, he opened fire at long range, adjusting for bullet drop and lead, advanced calculations requiring expertise and experience. His sustained burst found its mark. The Albatross exhibited signs of critical damage, entering a terminal descent, a victory confirmed by the absence of control and the steep angle of its fall. The second Albatross, recognizing the threat and the loss of his wingmen, disengaged and withdrew. Rickenbacker's concern shifted to the Nieuport pilot. As he approached, he observed the aircraft recover from the spin, a clear indication that the maneuver was a deliberate tactic to evade the enemy, known as a feigned spin. This technique required precise control inputs to mimic a loss of control, deceiving opponents into breaking off their attack. The pilot regained altitude and prepared to re-engage. Impressed by the pilot's skill and audacity, Rickenbacker ascended to a higher altitude to cover him. The Nieuport pilot signaled to Rickenbacker, indicating readiness to continue the fight. Together, they scanned the skies for further threats, embodying the principle of mutual support, a core tenet of aerial combat doctrine. Their attention was drawn to a distant skirmish near Pont-à-Mousson, a strategically significant area due to its railroad junctions and proximity to German supply lines, approximately 15 kilometers to the north. The decision to engage was not taken lightly. Pursuing the enemy into this sector meant venturing deeper into hostile territory, increasing the risks of anti-aircraft fire, interception by additional enemy fighters, and the challenge of a safe return should fuel reserves run low. Nonetheless, the pilots' commitment to their mission and the potential tactical advantage compelled them to proceed. What unfolded was a complex engagement involving multiple aircraft at varying altitudes and vectors. An enemy Albatross was aggressively pursuing an Allied aircraft, potentially one of the remaining British bombers or a reconnaissance plane. The Nieuport pilot initiated an aggressive dive on the tail of the Albatross. In response, another German fighter seized the opportunity to position itself behind the Nieuport, creating a dangerous situation known as being in the enemy's six. Rickenbacker prepared to intervene, maintaining an advantage in altitude. He understood that timing and precision were critical. Engaging too early might alert the enemy. Too late could result in the loss of the Nieuport. Executing a diving attack, he aimed for the trailing Albatross. Accounting for deflection shooting, he fired controlled bursts from his Vickers machine guns. His rounds struck the target, resulting in observable damage, a trail of smoke, and erratic flight patterns. The enemy aircraft, compromised, descended rapidly and crashed into the dense forests lining the east bank of the Moselle River. This region's topography, characterized by wooded areas and rolling hills, often concealed downed aircraft, complicating confirmation of kills. Amid the tactical successes, a critical failure occurred. The Nieuport pilot, attempting to evade the pursuing enemy, executed a sharp pull-up, a maneuver that imposed significant aerodynamic stress on the aircraft structure. The Nieuport 28, favored for its maneuverability but prone to wing failures due to inadequate upper wing bracing, faced catastrophic detachment of the canvas on the right wing. The aircraft became unstable, with asymmetric lift causing it to wobble unpredictably. Positioned deep within enemy territory, over 4 miles beyond the front lines, the pilot faced the dire prospect of a forced landing or worse. Rickenbacker assessed the situation with concern. Demonstrating exceptional airmanship, the Nieuport pilot managed to maintain partial control. Rickenbacker approached to offer assistance or, at the very least, moral support. As he drew nearer, the pilot's identity was revealed. It was Lieutenant Jimmy Meissner. Astonishingly, this was the second time Meissner had experienced such a structural failure and survived. His earlier incident involved similar circumstances, highlighting both the recurring issues with the Nieuport 28's design and Meissner's remarkable piloting skills. Meissner signaled to Rickenbacker with a wave and a reassuring smile, indicating his intent to attempt a return flight. Aware of the challenges ahead, Rickenbacker took a position alongside Meissner, ready to provide cover against any opportunistic enemy aircraft. Their flight back to the aerodrome was fraught with difficulty. The compromised aerodynamics of Meissner's aircraft required constant adjustments. Any sudden gust or unexpected maneuver could result in loss of control. Nevertheless, leveraging his expertise, Meissner navigated the perilous journey. Upon reaching the aerodrome, Meissner executed a cautious landing. His aircraft, deprived of significant lift surfaces, touched down unevenly, resulting in a minor crash. Ground crews and fellow pilots rushed to the scene, both relieved and astounded by his survival. Captain Douglas Campbell, a fellow ace of the 94th Aero Squadron and the first American-trained pilot to achieve ace status, approached with disbelief. Earlier, Campbell had witnessed the wing failure from a distance and presumed the worst. Meissner, unperturbed, responded to their concerns with characteristic modesty. The pilots exchanged remarks that underscored their camaraderie and the gallows humor common among combat aviators. Captain Rickenbacker, though relieved, addressed Meissner with a blend of admonishment and admiration, jestingly suggesting that such incidents were becoming a strain on his nerves. Meanwhile, Lieutenant John Mitchell recounted his own engagements. Leading the 95th Aero Squadron, Mitchell identified an enemy reconnaissance two-seater aircraft, a German Rumpler C-7 or similar, protected by two fighter escorts. Recognizing the intelligence threat posed by reconnaissance planes, Mitchell ordered an immediate attack. Engaging at a low altitude of approximately 900 meters, the squadron executed coordinated assaults. Successive diving attacks compromised the enemy's defensive capacity. The two-seater sustained critical damage, ultimately bursting into flames and crashing, a testament to the effectiveness of aggressive, well-coordinated tactics. Mitchell then pursued one of the escorting fighters northward towards Vignes-les-Hatonchâtel, deep within enemy territory. The German pilot, likely flying an Albatros or False D3, attempted evasive maneuvers but opted for an emergency landing. Seizing the opportunity, Mitchell continued his attack during the descent, a contentious practice but tactically justifiable given the circumstances. The enemy aircraft crashed during the landing attempt, with the outcome for the pilot unknown. This mission resulted in the confirmed destruction of multiple enemy aircraft without any Allied combat losses, a significant accomplishment reflecting the escalating proficiency of American pilots. Not all incidents of the day concluded triumphantly. Lieutenant Casgrain, known for his humor and vivacity within the 95th Squadron, embarked on his inaugural combat mission under Mitchell's leadership. During the engagement, Casgrain's Newport suffered the wing fabric failure due to abrupt maneuvering. Unaware of the aircraft's capacity to remain airborne despite the damage, he initiated a glide descent. Misjudging his location, Casgrain landed in no man's land, the perilous zone between the opposing trenches, fraught with barbed wire, unexploded ordnance, and the constant threat of enemy fire. Upon disembarking, he appeared nonchalant, consulting his map, indicating his unawareness of the immediate danger. Enemy rifle fire prompted him to seek cover, but in a twist of misunderstanding, he surrendered to the German forces, erroneously believing he was behind enemy lines. American artillery observers witnessed his predicament, but were unable to intervene. Unfortunately, his Newport was left intact and later retrieved by German troops, potentially providing them with intelligence on Allied aircraft configurations. Casgrain's capture became a source of anecdotal humor within the squadron, embodying the interplay between the gravity of war and the levity soldiers often employed to cope. Reports from repatriated prisoners later confirmed that Casgrain maintained high spirits during his captivity, continuing to entertain fellow prisoners and guards alike. The recurrent structural failures of the Newport 28 underscored a critical issue facing the American Expeditionary Forces: the inadequacy of aircraft relative to their missions. The Newport, with its single-spar wing design and minimal bracing, was prone to fabric shedding during high-stress maneuvers, a dangerous flaw in aerial combat where such maneuvers were routine. The French, recognizing these limitations, had already transitioned to the more robust SPAT S-13, which featured stronger construction and superior performance characteristics. However, supply constraints and production delays meant that American units had to utilize the obsolete Newports. These deficiencies not only endangered pilots, but also impeded operational effectiveness. Rickenbacker's critique reflects the frustrations of frontline units relying on outdated or substandard equipment, a problem compounded by logistical challenges in transatlantic supply chains and the nascent state of American aircraft manufacturing at the time. This situation highlights broader themes in military procurement: the rapid evolution of technology during wartime and the impact of industrial capacity on combat readiness. In reflecting upon the events of that Decoration Day in 1918, we recognize the exceptional courage, skill, and resilience of pilots like Eddie Rickenbacker, Jimmy Meissner, and their fellow aviators. Their actions contributed significantly to the Allied air supremacy that would shape the latter stages of World War I. The tales from Fighting the Flying Circus offer invaluable insights into early aerial warfare, pilot psychology, and the tactical developments that emerged from necessity and ingenuity. These narratives not only honor the legacy of the individuals involved, but also inform our understanding of aviation history. Advancements in aircraft design, tactics, and strategic doctrines were often forged in the crucible of such experiences. The lessons learned continue to influence modern aerial combat and military aviation technology. As we commemorate these pioneers, we encourage a deeper appreciation of their contributions and sacrifices. Their stories serve as a testament to human endurance and the relentless pursuit of excellence in the face of adversity.